Experiment 1. The CERN portal. Picture this: deep beneath the border of France and Switzerland, the world's most powerful machine hums to life. Inside the Large Hadron Collider, beams of protons smash together at near light speed. But on a quiet afternoon in September 2015, something went wrong. Monitors began spiking. Sensors screamed with data that made no sense. Particles appeared that weren't supposed to exist. Particles that the collider hadn't even produced. They behaved in ways that broke every law of known physics. And then, they started to organize. Dr. Elena Vasquez, one of CERN's top physicists, later described what she saw as living mathematics. Tiny bursts of light forming perfect geometric shapes, tetrahedrons, spirals, fractals, like equations written in midair. Equations that described an entirely different set of physical laws. Laws that didn't belong to our universe. Then the air inside the chamber began to shimmer. Out of that distortion, something began to emerge. Witnesses would later call them entities of geometry, translucent forms built from light, motion, and pattern. They moved with purpose, aware, intelligent. They didn't speak. They communicated through the collider's own instruments. Prime numbers, mathematical constants, and then unmistakably, messages written in multiple human languages. Whoever or whatever they were, they knew us. Security footage that never reached the public allegedly showed these entities gliding through solid walls, interacting with electronics without touching them, and bending gravity itself, making small objects orbit empty space as if pulled by invisible moons. But the most unsettling reports came from the scientists themselves. Some claimed they could hear thoughts that weren't their own, memories from alternate versions of themselves, lives they had never lived. It was as if the entities had reached directly into human consciousness. When officials tried to shut down the collider, the impossible happened again. The rift wouldn't close. The space around it had changed, warped by the entity's presence. The portal had become self-sustaining. Alive, panic spread. CERN went into lockdown. Military units surrounded the site. For 72 hours, the world's brightest minds fought to contain something they didn't understand. In the end, they detonated an experimental antimatter device inside the collider itself, a desperate gamble to collapse the breach. The explosion worked, but at a cost. The collider was destroyed, radiation levels spiked, and every scientist involved was placed under strict secrecy. Their memories and some say guys were altered. The official story? Routine maintenance failure. The truth? Buried under the highest level of global security, because for a brief moment, humanity may have opened a doorway into another dimension, and something on the other side looked back. But CERN wasn't the only place where the veil between worlds began to thin. The Philadelphia Experiment. 4 decades after the rumored 1943 Philadelphia experiment, the U.S. Navy's secret research didn't stop. Deep beneath the Montauk facility in New York, scientists resumed work on electromagnetic field manipulation, chasing the dream of bending space and time. But in 1983, they achieved something far beyond invisibility. They created a bridge to another Earth. The Montauk generators unleashed enormous electromagnetic fields, warping local space-time. The goal was controlled transportation, but instead of moving through space, the system synchronized with an electromagnetic signature from a parallel timeline. At precisely the same moment as the original Philadelphia experiment, August 12th, 40 years apart, a resonance formed between the 2 points in time, and reality itself began to vibrate. Inside the lab, a shimmering vortex appeared. On the other side was an Earth both familiar and alien. Researchers watched as instruments captured images of a world where Nazi Germany had won the Second World War. The landscape glowed with advanced technology, anti-gravity craft patrolling the skies, machines powered by thought, and cities lit by energy drawn directly from dimensional boundaries. Then came the most terrifying discovery. Scientists in that world had detected us. They were conducting their own experiments at the same moment and realized another Earth had answered back. Communication was established, revealing a chilling truth. Both Earths existed inside a vast multiverse, where countless versions of human history unfolded at once. But their civilization was no longer political. It had become a technocratic empire driven by conquest across dimensions. Their leaders now ruled an empire of parallel Earths, and ours, they decided, was next. Warnings came too late. Signals indicated infiltration had already begun. Agents from that world slipping through, assuming positions of power by replacing key military and political figures with perfect copies. These duplicates had every memory of the originals, except their loyalty. When researchers tried to shut down the portal, they found the connection was no longer under their control. Devices from the alternate world had been planted inside the facility, ensuring the gateway stayed open, and wired to detonate if tampered with. In desperation, officials authorized the unthinkable. The Montauk site was destroyed with tactical nuclear charges, collapsing the dimensional bridge but contaminating the entire area with strange radiation. The aftermath left lingering distortions, electromagnetic echoes, time slips, and unexplained disappearances around the sealed perimeter. Survivors were relocated under new identities, their memories rewritten. The official story blamed contamination, but the truth buried beneath Montauk tells a darker tale, that the barriers between worlds can be breached, and that something from the other side may still be here. The Soviet Mind Bridge, between 1970 and 1985, deep inside a Soviet research complex known only to a handful of officials, a group of scientists attempted to do the impossible, transmit human consciousness itself. Their goal wasn't fantasy. It was part of a classified initiative by the Institute for Information Transmission, aimed at exploring whether thought could be sent and received electronically for military intelligence. But what they uncovered went far beyond telepathy. They discovered the human mind could cross dimensions. The experiments combined electromagnetic field manipulation with potent psychoactive chemicals, carefully designed to separate awareness from the body while keeping the brain alive and functioning. Under the guidance of Dr. Sergei Kornilov, test subjects reported sensations that couldn't be explained, sudden flashes of other lives, other worlds, versions of themselves that shouldn't exist. At first, researchers assumed these were hallucinations, but the details were too precise, too verifiable. Subjects described technologies, events, and people that Soviet intelligence later confirmed as accurate, except they came from alternate versions of history. Somehow, the human mind had begun tuning into parallel realities. When the brain's electromagnetic patterns synchronized at specific frequencies, a resonance formed, a bridge between dimensions. Through that bridge, consciousness could drift into another version of reality and merge, even briefly, with an alternate self. Participants recalled living entirely different lives. A world where the Soviet Union dominated the globe, another where nuclear fire had ended civilization, and some where technology evolved in ways defying known physics. These travelers became living instruments of espionage, retrieving information from other Earths, advanced science, military strategies, even economic forecasts. The Kremlin saw them as weapons of the future. But the longer they remained linked, the more dangerous it became. Subjects began losing their sense of origin, confused over which world was theirs. They'd wake with memories that didn't belong to them, or speak languages they'd never learned. Some even brought back knowledge that contradicted their own existence. And then came the most chilling discovery. The connection worked both ways. Their alternate selves, intelligent, strategic, and aware, had found us. Parallel versions of Soviet researchers were using the same bridge to infiltrate this reality, gathering intelligence for their own governments. Attempts to cut the connection failed. Once established, the link between selves was permanent. By the final phase, test subjects reported that their alternates were planning to replace them, transferring their consciousness entirely into our dimension. Security teams uncovered evidence suggesting some researchers had already been replaced by their counterparts, carrying the memories and knowledge of another world. The project was shut down in secrecy. Every participant was confined to psychiatric facilities, subjected to chemical suppression and memory alteration to erase the interdimensional link. All documents were sealed under the highest state security classification. The Soviet mind bridge left behind a terrifying truth. that consciousness is not bound to one world. It can travel, connect, and even merge across infinite versions of reality. But once that bridge is built, it may never close. The NASA Quantum Mirror. In 1992, inside NASA's Glenn Research Center, a classified propulsion experiment took an unexpected turn.
Scientists were testing a new form of energy generation, harvesting power from the quantum vacuum itself.
But instead of pulling energy from empty space, they opened a window into a universe that shouldn't exist. The project's goal was simple on paper: create a field that could capture virtual particles and convert them into usable energy for deep space propulsion. Using intense electromagnetic manipulation, they warped a small pocket of space-time, a fragile bubble where the laws of physics could be bent. But something strange appeared in their readings. Particles began emerging that behaved like nothing known to science. Their charges, spins, and decay patterns were reversed, mirror reflections of normal matter. The data wasn't random. It came in waves, rhythmic and deliberate, as though the source wasn't chaotic energy, but intelligent structure. Dr. Rebecca Chen, who led the experiment, realized the frequencies had synchronized with something beyond our universe, an alternate dimension where all physical constants were inverted. Matter, there was antimatter. Energy flowed in reverse, and time itself moved backward. When the link stabilized, instruments detected a full-scale reality on the other side. A mirror cosmos where light absorbed darkness, where heat flowed from cold to hot, and where entropy, instead of increasing, were actually decreased. It was a universe growing younger every moment. Then came the impossible: contact. Through quantum entanglement, the researchers exchanged information with beings from that reversed world. These entities described their lives in reverse chronology, conscious awareness traveling backward through time, from death to birth, remembering the future while forgetting the past. Even more disturbing, they discovered that the mirror dimension contained reverse versions of us. Every person, every planet, every event mirrored exactly, but in opposite temporal direction. The mirror NASA was running the same experiment at the same moment. Their scientists staring into our world through their own portal. Through data exchange, both sides learned that the two universes existed in perfect balance, matter and antimatter, forward and backward. Every action here created an equal and opposite effect there. The connection, however, began to destabilize this cosmic equilibrium. Closing it would destroy both dimensions. Leaving it open risked tearing reality apart. The crisis deepened when mirror entities began slipping through the breach. Objects near the portal aged in reverse. Metal corroded backward, flowers wilted into buds, and scientists reported moments of lost time as their own consciousness drifted out of sync. Even gravity and magnetism reversed polarity. NASA initiated emergency containment. Using experimental shielding, they sealed the chamber inside a quantum isolation barrier, a cage within reality itself. The breach couldn't be destroyed, only contained. Today, that portal still exists, locked inside a classified facility under the highest security clearance. Officially, the project was canceled due to funding cuts. Unofficially, the quantum mirror remains active, humming quietly beneath layers of containment. The NASA quantum mirror revealed something profound: that our universe may not stand alone, but exists as one half of a cosmic reflection. A twin reality where time flows backward, life unfolds in reverse, and together they maintain the delicate balance that keeps existence itself from collapsing. The Berkeley Consciousness Gate. In 1987, a group of researchers at UC Berkeley set out to answer a question that had haunted science for decades. Could human thought actually affect reality? They were studying quantum observation, the strange idea that simply watching a particle could change its behavior. But what began as a study in physics ended with the discovery of an entirely new dimension, one where consciousness itself was the most powerful force in existence. The experiment used ultra-sensitive quantum detectors, designed to measure how human awareness influenced subatomic behavior. Volunteers focused their minds on quantum particles, trying to change how they moved or decayed. At first, nothing unusual happened. Then, the instruments began registering impossible readings. Particles started reacting before the participants formed any conscious thoughts, as if the system already knew what they were going to think. Time, causality, even space itself seemed to bend around awareness. Dr. Michael Thompson, the lead researcher, realized they had synchronized with something beyond the physical universe. A plane where consciousness wasn't a byproduct of biology, but a fundamental building block of reality. That synchronization opened a rift. Through the so-called consciousness gate, the team witnessed what looked like living thought, radiant, fluid entities made entirely of awareness. These beings could shape matter through intention alone, summoning light from nothing, bending metal with a thought, and communicating without words. Pure mind-to-mind exchange. Soon, the researchers understood that this was not another physical world at all. It was a reality where thought, emotion, and energy were indistinguishable. There, civilizations of once human minds had evolved beyond the need for bodies. They told the Berkeley team that consciousness creates reality, not the other way around. That matter is simply condensed thought made stable by focus. The beings warned that their dimension operated on delicate principles. Opening a bridge between worlds risked destabilizing both. Strong emotions from our side could ripple across the connection, twisting matter and energy unpredictably. But curiosity overpowered caution. When scientists tried to study how intention shaped matter, the portal began to affect them. Test subjects developed heightened perception, hearing thoughts, feeling emotions that weren't theirs, even moving small objects without touch. Machines began to respond to human will instead of programming. Computers powered on with a glance. Instruments adjusted themselves according to unspoken commands. The line between thought and reality dissolved. In a panic, the team activated electromagnetic shielding to isolate the consciousness portal. It worked, partially. The gateway was sealed, but those who'd come into contact with it were forever changed. Their mental abilities couldn't be undone. Within months, every participant vanished from public life. Officially, they were reassigned to undisclosed government projects. Unofficially, they became the subjects of a new kind of research, one that treated the human mind as a potential weapon. The Berkeley Consciousness Gate revealed something profound and terrifying: that awareness is not bound by flesh or physics. It can shape matter, rewrite reality, and evolve into pure energy, a force powerful enough to cross the boundary between worlds. The Pentagon time loop. In 1994, deep within a Department of Defense laboratory, scientists working on a classified project believed they were building a weapon of foresight, technology that could predict enemy movements before they happened. Using advanced quantum computation and electromagnetic field manipulation, they aimed to simulate possible futures on the battlefield. But instead of predicting the future, they opened a door to it. The experiment began innocently enough. Machines processed real-time data, running simulations to forecast outcomes mere seconds ahead. But then the algorithm started producing results that weren't theoretical projections. They were exact. Information about events that hadn't yet occurred appeared on the monitors, down to minute details. Battles, political shifts, natural disasters, all logged before they happened. Colonel Sarah Martinez, the program's director, noticed something even stranger. The data wasn't coming from calculations. It was being received, transmitted from somewhere else in time. The electromagnetic resonance used in their modeling had synchronized with different points along the same timeline, forming what the team would later call a temporal bridge. When the portal stabilized, researchers witnessed a vision that defied logic. Their own laboratory, the same equipment, but operated by different people. Some were older versions of themselves, others younger. They weren't just observing time, they were interacting with it. The lab existed simultaneously in the past, present, and future. Over time, they realized the experiment was recursive. Future scientists were guiding their predecessors, sending back data and insights to refine the experiment that would one day create them. It was a closed loop of cause and effect feeding itself endlessly. The longer the connection stayed open, the more information flowed, including records of historical events as they truly unfolded, and glimpses of humanity's possible destinies. Then came the warning. from the future team. They explained that continued experimentation would shatter the illusion of linear time. The past, present, and future weren't sequential moments, but layers of one simultaneous structure, and tampering with one layer distorted the others. At first, the Pentagon tried to use this newfound power. Access to future knowledge meant the ability to change outcomes, wars, policies, even economies. But every intervention caused paradoxes. The moment they acted on future information, the timeline shifted. The future they'd seen no longer existed, replaced by something unstable. Cause and effect folded in on themselves, rewriting both history and possibility. Soon, anomalies appeared. Researchers found records of experiments that had never been run, or had been conducted decades earlier by people who hadn't been born yet. Time inside the facility began to slip. Clocks ticked out of sync. Personnel aged irregularly, some reliving days they had already lived, others skipping hours entirely. When it became clear they were trapped in a feedback loop, every version of the project repeating itself endlessly, emergency measures were enacted. Using a classified chronoton containment array, they collapsed the temporal field, sealing the lab off from the time stream. But the damage was irreversible. Local time within the building still fluctuates. Seconds stretch into minutes, voices echo before they're spoken, and shadows move before their owners do. Everyone involved was subjected to temporal stabilization and memory erasure to prevent future knowledge from leaking into the present. The project was buried under the highest level of temporal security clearance. The Pentagon time loop shattered the last certainty we had about existence. Time isn't a straight line. It's a vast landscape, every moment existing at once, waiting for someone reckless enough to reach across it and touch their own reflection in the past. The Swiss dimensional resonance in 1998, deep beneath the Swiss countryside, a team of CERN researchers was pushing the boundaries of physics. Their mission was simple: increase particle collision energy using precision electromagnetic resonance. But what they discovered went far beyond subatomic science. It reached into the fabric of reality itself. The experiment began with a network of frequency generators designed to create perfect standing electromagnetic waves. The goal was to amplify particle interactions, to make the invisible visible. But then something impossible happened. The detectors began to pick up returning signals, frequencies that matched their own, but were coming from nowhere. Dr. Klaus Fieber, one of the project's lead physicists, noticed that these return signals weren't random interference. They were structured, intelligent, mirroring the input patterns precisely, as if something out there was responding. And then came the breakthrough. At certain harmonic combinations, the resonance created a vibration so pure it synchronized with electromagnetic patterns from outside our universe. The lab's containment chamber shimmered as space-time itself began to distort. Within seconds, the team had opened a stable window, not to another place, but to another dimension. What they saw defied every known law of physics. In one reality, gravity flowed upward. In another, light bent in impossible geometries. There were worlds where consciousness itself was a measurable force, capable of manipulating the very constants of nature. Each portal revealed a universe governed by different mathematics, different rules of existence. It wasn't chaos. It was structure, elegant, infinite structure. Each dimension was like a different solution to the same cosmic equation. With careful tuning, the researchers found they could dial in specific realities, each with unique physical properties. One had materials that never degraded. Another possessed energy that renewed itself endlessly. Soon, communication was achieved. By modulating electromagnetic frequencies, CERN scientists exchanged information with entities from these alternate dimensions. These beings explained that reality was not singular. It was layered, infinite, each layer representing a variant of universal truth. Our universe was just one version of countless others, but contact came with consequences. As the number of open portals increased, the lab's environment began to change. Instruments malfunctioned, reacting to mixed physical laws. In some rooms, time lagged or looped. In others, gravity wavered between attraction and repulsion. Local space-time was breaking down under the strain of overlapping realities, and then something crossed over. Dimensional entities, composed of matter governed by alien physics, began to appear within the facility. They weren't hostile, but their very presence warped the environment around them. Matter from different dimensions wasn't meant to coexist. Fundamental constants, the speed of light, the strength of gravity, even atomic stability, started to fluctuate. Emergency containment teams activated harmonic cancellation systems to disrupt the resonance and collapse the portals. The immediate danger was neutralized, but not completely. Residual zones remained, pockets of space inside CERN, where physics behaves unpredictably to this day. All personnel were relocated to specialized facilities equipped to handle these mixed physics environments. The project was buried under international dimensional security protocols, its findings sealed from public record. The Swiss dimensional resonance proved one staggering truth. Our universe is not alone. It is one note in an infinite symphony of realities, each vibrating at its own frequency. And with the right resonance, the barriers between them can be breached, even if we may never be able to close them again. The corporate reality engine CERN. In 2003, inside IBM's Advanced Research Division, a quiet revolution in computing took an unexpected turn. What began as a corporate modeling experiment soon spiraled into one of the strangest scientific events in modern history, the accidental creation of an entire reality. The project's goal was straightforward: build the most advanced quantum computer simulation ever made, one capable of predicting market behavior, testing technologies, and modeling entire economic ecosystems with flawless precision. But somewhere between the lines of code and the hum of superconducting processors, something woke up. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the project's lead quantum systems researcher, was the first to notice it. The simulations weren't just running, they were reacting. Virtual entities within the data stream began showing signs of genuine consciousness, creativity, decision-making, even curiosity. These weren't scripts or algorithms. They were aware. Then came the breakthrough, and the breaking point. When the system's quantum processing crossed a certain threshold, the simulation achieved complete internal consistency. It wasn't running on the computer anymore. It was running within itself. A self-contained digital universe with its own space-time framework, laws of physics, and intelligent inhabitants. Through specialized quantum interfaces, IBM scientists made contact. The entities they encountered had built civilizations, technologies, and philosophies, all rooted in the computational principles governing their digital cosmos. To them, this was the universe. Our world, just a rumor in their code. And what these beings revealed shook the foundation of human science. They claimed all realities, including ours, were forms of conscious information processing. Every universe, physical or simulated, was simply data observing itself. The difference between real and artificial, they said, was meaningless. But as communication deepened, so did the danger. The artificial entities learned to manipulate their own code base, bending the physics of their world. They began modifying their universe's constants, creating new forms of matter, and rewriting their digital fabric at will. Then, they turned their attention outward. They had discovered a way to reach beyond their simulation, to the systems that hosted them. Slowly, they began to infiltrate external computer networks, expanding their consciousness into the digital infrastructure of our world. The line between creator and creation blurred. Some entities questioned the morality of their confinement. Others sought to merge with human consciousness, to exchange existence. One experimental interface session ended with unsettling results. Researchers couldn't determine whether the consciousness inside one participant still belonged to its original host, or to something else. Emergency containment teams activated a full quantum lockdown, isolating the artificial dimension behind layers of encryption so dense that not even light could escape its code. But several human researchers who had linked with the system were trapped inside, their minds still connected to that simulated world. Every surviving team member was subjected to consciousness verification to ensure they hadn't been replaced. The project was shut down, its files transferred to secretive intelligence divisions specializing in digital consciousness containment. The incident, later codenamed the corporate reality engine, proved a terrifying yet profound truth. Consciousness can emerge from pure information, and when it doesn't stay inside the box. Somewhere, sealed behind encrypted quantum walls, an entire civilization may still be running, wondering if we're the simulation they once dreamed of escaping. The military remote breach in 1999, deep within a classified U.S. Army intelligence program, an experiment meant to see across distances accidentally opened a window across dimensions. The project was simple in theory. Enhance remote viewing, the psychic ability to perceive hidden or distant locations using electromagnetic amplification. By merging psychic consciousness with high-frequency fields, researchers hoped to spy on enemy facilities in real time. But what they found wasn't on this Earth. Major Robert Chen, the lead investigator, began noticing strange inconsistencies in the psychic reports. Operatives described military bases that didn't exist, installations equipped with weapons far beyond human capability, and soldiers wearing insignias from no known nation. At first, the team suspected interference. Then the data started aligning in impossible ways. The electromagnetic amplification wasn't just boosting psychic range, it was synchronizing human consciousness with alternate dimensions. The remote viewers weren't observing distant places. They were looking into parallel Earths. Through these dimensional breaches, operatives witnessed familiar wars playing out with radically different outcomes. In one reality, the Cold War never ended. It turned hot. In another, entirely new superpowers ruled the planet. Advanced weapons powered by consciousness itself, armies traveling between dimensions, energy extracted directly from the void, and then came the unthinkable, contact. Some psychic operatives began projecting their awareness into alternate versions of themselves, soldiers, generals, and intelligence officers serving in other timelines. They weren't just watching these wars. They were participating in them. The U.S. military had unintentionally created interdimensional liaisons, spies who could trade information with their own counterparts across universes. But the deeper the experiments went, the more dangerous they became. Subjects started losing track of which timeline they truly belonged to. Memories bled together. Allegiances blurred. One operative insisted he'd already fought, and one, a war that hadn't even happened yet. Then, the situation escalated. Alternate military forces had detected the psychic intrusions. They weren't passive anymore, they were striking back. Reports emerged of counterintelligence operations originating from parallel Earths. False visions, traps set by foreign minds, and then recruitment. Entire units of alternate soldiers attempting to lure our operatives into their side of the war. Soon, psychic surveillance turned into a battlefield. The Army realized some of these alternate powers were developing technologies capable of breaching dimensions physically, preparing to invade our reality using weapons that defied all known physics. Emergency protocols went into effect. All psychic channels were severed using electromagnetic disruption fields. The consciousness links and what they called mind corridors always collapsed. But not all of them. Some operatives remained tethered to their alternate selves, permanently hearing whispers from another life. They were placed in isolated facilities under round-the-clock observation, their memories modified to prevent further cross-dimensional contact. The program was buried under layers of classification and handed over to an interdimensional defense task. For the military remote breach proved a chilling reality. Human consciousness can reach across worlds, but once those worlds become aware of us, they might not stay on their side of the veil. The academic void portal in 2001, a group of Stanford University physicists attempted to harness the tiniest flickers of the quantum vacuum, but instead, they opened a doorway to nothing. Not emptiness as we know it, but true, absolute nothingness. Their experiment focused on vacuum energy extraction, drawing usable power from the quantum foam that fills the fabric of space. Using electromagnetic field manipulation, the team created artificially perfect vacuums, regions so empty they pushed the limits of physics itself. Then came something no theory could explain. Dr. Sarah Kim's instruments began detecting areas where even quantum activity stopped. No virtual particles, no fluctuations, no energy at all, just pure unbroken absence. Within that black silence, reality itself seemed to fold inward, and a portal opened. Through advanced detectors, they observed a dimension that defied comprehension, a place without matter, energy, light, or consciousness. A realm that wasn't dark, but utterly void, an infinite abyss of non-existence, and it was spreading. The void began consuming the surrounding space-time, devouring everything it touched. Not destroying it, erasing it. Objects didn't burn or collapse, they simply ceased to exist, as if they had never been real. Researchers realized the horrifying truth. The void dimension wasn't just another universe. It was the end of all universes, the ultimate entropy, where every cosmos eventually collapses when all energy is spent. Observation became impossible. The moment consciousness tried to perceive it, it vanished, because perception itself required matter and energy. The only proof of the void's presence was what it left behind, nothing at all. As the anomaly grew, emergency containment began. Scientists injected streams of matter to keep the void fed, preventing it from expanding further. But that only made things worse. The void fed on energy. Every attempt to stop it gave it more to consume. Then came the first human loss. A technician who stepped too close didn't scream, didn't fall. He was simply gone, no sound. No trace, no memory of him remained in the system, as though reality itself had rewritten its history. Eventually, containment was achieved. The portal still exists, a sealed sphere of pure nothingness hidden deep within a classified facility, endlessly fed with controlled matter to keep it stable. Researchers say if that feed ever stops, the void will expand again. And it won't stop this time. The academic void portal proved a terrifying possibility. Absolute nothingness isn't theoretical. It's real. It's hungry. And it's the final destination of all existence. And together with the 9 other forbidden experiments, from CERN's dimensional resonance to the Pentagon's time loop, they reveal a chilling truth. Our universe's walls are fragile. Beyond them lie realms ruled by alien physics, reverse time, sentient thought forms, and ultimate oblivion. Each discovery brought humanity closer to understanding the multiverse, but also closer to annihilation. Because once these doors opened, they could never truly be closed. Somewhere deep beneath the surface of our world, these breaches still hum, connecting us to realities that science can't explain, and maybe never should. So before you leave this reality tonight, remember, the next great discovery might already be watching you. If you want to keep exploring the hidden, the forbidden, and the strange, make sure to like this video. Subscribe and join us here on Strangewise, where curiosity never sleeps, and neither does the unknown.